So the nominees for the Game Awards 2021 were revealed this week, including one big one, Game of the Year. So how did we go, the Bigwig crew, in our predictions? So we will go through Game of the Year. That's not the right clip. Deathloop, It Takes Two, Metroid Dread.
You could line it up with Keeley on the screen.
I could. Yeah, for the video. Yeah, Metroid Dread. Psychonauts 2. I'm trying to put on a Canadian accent. It's too slow. Ratchet and Clank ripped apart. And finally, Resident Evil Village. We got that completely wrong. So myself and Swinny got 4 out of 6 correct. Mike, I feel like the fact that you put Cyberpunk there was no chance Cyberpunk was going to be on 6. There was like zero.
I was going to put Resident Evil. I had it on my list, but then I'm like, I'll just sneak it.
So where you guys went wrong, where we all went wrong was Returnal. We actually had Returnal as one of the games of the year. Not Mike played it for one day and then returned it, and yet put it on the game of the year.
I played it for more than that. Thank you very much.
I'm surprised by that.
It's too hard for you.
The reason I'm surprised by that was because Housemarque has been a bit of a critical darling, and it just felt like with their move, with them being purchased by Sony, their big first AAA title, it was like, that made sense.
Yeah,
but
that was a good game.
It's also, like I said last week, I found it hard to pick. I thought there were a lot of contenders, and I think that was the case. So.
I was supremely confident about It Takes Two, Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2. Like I felt like they were 100% chance in my head. And then I think I said Deathloop. I was like on the fence with Ratchet and Clank. In my opinion, should not be in the top 6, but it's one of those things you start to balance it out and you go, where's Sony in this? Like that was the best contender from Sony, like themselves, really. Like I know that now, like with what's it called? Returnal. It's like part of their studio now, but it wasn't at the time technically, sort of thing. So I think that was a little bit different. But Resident Evil Village was a bit of a shock to me because people who are like massive fans of that game were like, it's really, really good, but it's kind of more of the same. So I'm kind of surprised about that. Though.
Yeah, but it generated a lot of memes. That's part of it. I think it's part of it. It's how deep of an impact does it have on gaming culture, if you could call it that. And I think it had a bit of an impact in that sense as well.
I reckon people knew about the Japanese thing, man. I think if you look through the list, they've got like one Japanese game, Metroid Dread. Like that, those kind of things are a massive factor, man.
Even 100%
Resident
Japanese.
Evil Village Japanese?
That's what I'm saying. I think like it's too unbalanced if you don't have like a couple of Japanese games, in my view at least.
Why? But Dread is not even like a full Japanese game, is it? So,
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, so it's the only Japanese game. Oh, so if you didn't actually have it, you'd have no Japanese games. Yeah.
Well, that's what I said last week. I'm like, the only game I could think of, I didn't think of Resident Evil. Was Tales of Arise what the closest, but I didn't think that would get chosen. So it did get nominated for RPG, but yeah, look, I mentioned it kind of during the week, and I got told to save it for the podcast. But
get that all the time.
It is a shame. I feel that Cyberpunk is unrecognized in a lot of ways, but it deserves it. I'm not saying it doesn't deserve it. It had potentially the worst launch of all time, next to something like No Man's Sky.
It's way worse than that because of just to interrupt, sorry, but I mean, No Man's Sky, terrible, yes, but it's kind of like a nothing studio ultimately. Versus
anyway, like that's not what I'm not talking about that.
I know, I'm just saying, I don't
said next to it. I didn't say.
I don't think it's on the same order. But
So anyway, the thing is that it's a game that I feel that still needs its redemption. Obviously, the like CDPR themselves, like they deserve the mess that they created, right?
Yeah.
But there is so much good in that game that just gets completely covered by everything. Like people, and the majority of people that shit on that game have probably never even played it.
Yeah.
It feels unfair, but I don't think it deserved to be nominated for Game of the Year. It's kind of that. It's just that real painful point for me. It's like it kind of feels like it needed some kind of recognition, but it's obviously doesn't deserve it.
But I mean, it got nominated for the RPG of the year, and I think that to me that seems like a balanced outcome from you guys.
Well, is that because there weren't really that many other RPGs that year either?
I wish it was actually nominated for narrative over RPG.
Yeah,
because
sure.
I think the
same.
story
I mean,
was its
story-wise, characters.
But
Man, I love that game.
all I was trying to say is that, like I from what you've both said, right, and I trust your judgment, it's a decent game. It's a game that's kind of worthy of these contentions. And I think, like, on balance, like, that's the kind of genre it is, supposedly. And, I feel like it's a bit of a recognition for it. People railed against it getting nominated for RPG of the Year. Railed against it. But overall, I mean, for those AAA releases, it's relatively weak field, right, Swinny? Like, people were going, oh, this should have gone in front of it. And I was saying, like, Bravely Default 2. I'm like, calm down, right? Like, what? So,
I mean, there's probably, I haven't played it, I can't judge Bravely Default 2, but I think a lot of people, I think Returnal's a big one that I saw a lot of people complain about not being selected when I was checking the random pages and stuff. So
yeah, and my last question, I think we'll move on after we cover like what the rollout is, I guess, for our content around that. But is my question to you guys is, if Returnal was released at the time that Deathloop was released, and Deathloop was released in the time window that Returnal was released, do you think there's a possibility it would almost be flipped, that Returnal would have been nominated for Game of the Year? Because I think Deathloop was released at the absolute perfect time, because you got to think, it's like when critics have played these games, it's fresh. They go, wow, what a cool game that was. And then, hey guys, can you put the nominees of Game of the Year in? It's got to be a factor.
No, look, I don't know. I mean, I played Returnal. I still enjoyed it. It's just that in terms of the content and in terms of the price point and in terms of all those factors together, it didn't feel right. Like it's a great solid game, but to me it never felt like a game that would ultimately be a real contender for Game of the Year. It just
Why'd you nominate it?
It's the
then?
nature of the
don't
game, I
understand.
think. It's something like Dead Cells winning Game of the Year for some reason. No, because I thought just because I think that doesn't necessarily mean that that's
like
what
the
the
hype
world
around
thinks.
it.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
I'm gonna go with what I think the world might think about this. And personally, it just doesn't feel to me like a game that has the type of content that, to me at least, makes it that way. It's kind of like I don't know, something like any roguelike in a way winning Game of the Year. It's not the kind of thing I think will win.
I think a lot of it, and I can't speak for the people involved in the nomination process, because obviously I don't know exactly who they are and their thoughts, but I think that because the game launched in a way that it was tough to work that game into people's lifestyles, considering you couldn't really suspend, you could, like, in the middle of a run, and I think that if that had launched with that stuff in place that they've since updated, I think a lot of the negatives, downsides to that game would have been alleviated for that, and I think it would have been a much stronger position. But also, we've got to remember there's 6 games that they can choose. Not only is it 6 games, but they probably feel that they also need to represent a wide array of play styles, genres. So it's I think that's also part of it. It's just like, it just didn't make the cut. It's a great game, I'm sure. I haven't played it, but unfortunately, it just didn't make the cut.
Yeah, so we'll go through our predictions 2 weeks, 2 shows from now. So on the 5th, so Sunday the 5th of December.
Not every single category, but we'll probably choose like maybe 10.
We'll do the key ones. Top esports contender, top content creator,
Nice.
best international music. Yeah. So no, but maybe
best sports game. Yep.
maybe have a crack at the minimized list, Swinny, and then maybe we'll just only pick the ones that we actually care about. So no RPG of the year. We'll get rid of that.
Hey,
nah, that's not true.
Go get fucked.
Oh shit.
Oh whoa.
And then
geez.
yes, just to cap that, that's real nice, Swinny. Just to cap that off, we will, at least Swinny and I, don't know if Mike's a true believer, but
Mike, I don't know if I can take time off work like you guys can.
Hey, it's called annual leave in Australia. Swinny and I will do a live stream reaction, hopefully, if we could get our live streaming working again, of the Game Awards. So that will be a bit of fun. And I don't know what you want to do, Swinny, because it's like a 4-hour time block according to them.
We will figure it out. I'm in it for the pain this time. So
yeah. Get some beers.
the
or
pleasure
something.
and the pain.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get on to our next story.